Mənsubiyyətinə
So
həsr
our
olunub və
first speaker
onun bu
will be
səkkində
Mrs. Svetlana Amosova
müsbət
from the Jewish Museum
tarixçəsi var.
and the
Birinci
Tolerance
məruzətçi
Center
xanım
in
Svetlana
Moscow.
Amosova olacaq. O,
What a
Moskvanın
remarkable name
Yahudi
for this institution.
Muzeyinin və
Ms.
tolerans
Amosova is she's
mərkəzindən
an anthropologist and historian, head of
rəhbərdir və
research
xanım
center
Amosova
at the
antropoloq
Jewish
və
Museum.
tarixçidir
And
və
also a
Yahudi
junior researcher
Muzeyində
at the Institute
tədqiqatla
of Slavic
məşğuldur. Eyni
Studies of
zamanda
the Russian
o
Academy of Sciences. She's an
Rusiyanın
author
Elmlər
of more than 50
Akademiyasında
publications
Slavyan
on the history and
tədqiqatları
culture of Jews in the former Soviet
bölməsində və
Union.
o
And today
keçmiş
she will
Sovet
focus on the
İttifaqında
stereotypes
Yahudi tarixi
and
və mədəniyyətinə həsr olunmuş
among the local groups of mountain
məqalənin
Jews of the Caucasus.
müəllifidir və bugün o dağ Yahudilərin yerli qrupları arasında stereotiplər və avtostereotiplər haqqında olacaq. Buyurun. Please. Yeah, just upload their presentation. It's called Baku presentation. Please display the presentation. I will start. So, my presentation will be about stereotypes and outer stereotypes among the groups of mountainous Jews. My presentation will display the issue of identity of mountainous Jews. Actually, I referred to this topic many times. My presentation would incorporate interviews during our expeditions in 1820 by Afer Center in Durban, which we worked for 3 seasons. Thanks to Ilyich Danilov for organization of this work, and also I show materials obtained during expeditions by Tolerance Center in Pyatigorsk, where we worked with members of mountainous Jews community, but also communities of other Jews. Mark Simonovich Kimometsky, researcher of Russian Jewish, wrote about 3 levels of identifications of Russian Jews. Jews, mountains Jews, and affiliation with some groups. Affiliation may provoke some stereotypes and geostereotypes. And group identification includes features, external and internal features, and all 3 levels of identity includes stereotypes about Jewish, mountains Jewish, and local identity. If we refer to identity of Jewish and mountains Jewish, we could say the mountains Jewish description appears in the 18th century. Anisimov, the first mountains Jewish scholar, introduces 2 terms, Dagjufut, Judeo-Tat and Tat. Actually, it's not endonyms, but it's actively used in Russian scholarly discourse late 19th, early 20th century. In early 20th century, after revolution, the period of formation and split of ethnic groups before the first population census of USSR starts. The commission includes linguists Miller, Stern, Bogorast, Tan, Anuchin, Zelenina, and many others, decided that separation of the group on language federality is not true. In 1926, there were some groups of Jews, mountainous Jews, Crimean Jews, and Central Asian Jews. Mountainous Jews are noted as Dagjufut. This is official term. Then, it's very crucial that at that very time, ethnologists, anthropologists, and linguists who deals with a list of the ethnicities did not merge Jewish people as one ethnicity, which is a very interesting approach. And European Jewish, also known as Ashkenazi, are not somehow stated in this population census. They're just stated as Jewish, while other groups had some degree of separation. But in 1929, Boris Miller shaped the concept of the unique Tat language on the basis of the Tat ethnicities. Although ethnographies in early 20 stated that we cannot merge the group on the basis of the language. There was a concept on unique Tat ethnicity, which was developed later, and many mountainous Jews changed their ethnicity and their passports to Tats. There was so many factors behind. The history of Tats and mountainous Jews provoked some stereotypes and auto-stereotypes, which led to the fact that the people who were recorded as Tats or whose parents were recorded as Tats identify themselves as Highlander nation, confronting Ashkenazi Jewish or other groups of Jewish that they say their national character is different and their language is different. So here we could see outer stereotypes. From the very onset, everyone or many scholars claim that Tats are documentary story, but if we refer to the documents, I just analyze the bulk of the documents which are displayed on the Heroes Mercy website. There was statement of ethnicity. Ethnicity was not recorded on the basis of the passport, but upon self-expression of the individual. This was very interesting vernacular practice. I made a list of the nationalities of people who had military commitment and who went for war. And we sometimes identify the address or domicile, which helped a lot. And finally, I had a following scene. Unfortunately, I couldn't show it. Most of people in Durban identify themselves as mountainous Jews. Tats ranked third, but Tats had so many subgroups, I cannot show it. There are Dagestani Tats, Jewish Tats, and mountainous Jews Tats, but there are more complicated options which could be hardly explained when the people are identified as Armenians or Azerbaijani. And the most important options is when the people identify as nations not stated in official lists, like a Highlander or Dagestani. For example, Hizrgi Avshalomov in a word list is stated as Highlander, and the person constructs identity not on the basis of language or a previous ethnonym, but on the place of birth in order to show unity with Caucasian nations, but also to show affiliation with the language where they are recorded as Lesky. In 20s, national terminology emerges and Tat mountainous Jews dichotomy, which is widely described by scholars, appears a bit later in 30s and 40s, and it doesn't clearly display identity crisis which appears in 20 or 30. If we refer back to ethno-territorial analysis, we could say that there are several types. I could show it, for example, 7 local groups: Chikin, Kuba, Kaitak, Durban, Kuba, Sherwan, Vartashan, and Grozno. Kupavetsky writes about 4 groups, and some scholars wrote about 5 groups. If we refer to the interviews from Durban to Petrogorsk, we could say that there are Kaitak, Durban, and Azerbaijani big group of Jews. Azerbaijani Jewish are mainly identified as a big group because their second language is Azerbaijani. Therefore, Jewish people again are composed by linguistic affiliation with very few exclusions. Kuban and Karchavy-Cherkessia Jewish people are stated. It's a very tiny group. Yes, just many respondents. Baku identity. Baku identity. So they're not visible for our respondents. So please scroll down quickly. So this is our expedition, just this is a breakdown, these groups, that's Jewish groups stated in the 1926 population census, a unique type nation concept, scroll down, yeah, just popular memory, just, could we refer back to the previous slide? Yeah. Yeah. Nominations inherited Durban-based Jewish people. This is what I stated. There were 2 award lists, and there were different entries in one document. These individuals was identified as Highlanders, while in other document it was stated as Tartar. In one document it was stated as Jewish person, in other it was regarded as Russian. Referring back to the slides, we need to speak about local groups. Jewish people lived distantly from each other, and there was internal stereotypes about those groups. This situation depicts outer stereotypes, but it's not unique to Jewish people. The same applies to Ashkenazi. Ethnographers of Podolia identified nicknames for many groups, or just Russian writings says about the nicknames of Russian North. So this is clearly understandable for ethnographists. Within one national group, there may be different ethnical stereotypes. In mountainous Jewish landscape, there are internal stereotypes which are construed in the same way. It may be the difference between language and dialects, difference between characters or national characters, as they say, and difference in cuisine. The differences are mainly about language and intelligibility or non-intelligibility of dialects. Despite of all challenges between splitting different groups, Durban is the biggest group, and there is identification of all Jewish groups. However, the group of Durban Jews is not homogeneous. Within Durban, there are people who remember what their origin, which village they came from, and their relatives and neighbors, so there may be different identifications, different nicknames or classifications as a very crucial theme. The people that came from different villages characterize themselves with different sets of features. They may be internal and external features, which is inherent to many other ethnic groups. And the last slide, please. Mountainous Jews' identity is based on several layers. The last one? Yeah. This is a widest identification of Jewish people and Caucasian nations. So there is stereotype for Jewish, mountainous Jews and Tat, and stereotypes about language, mountainous Jews versus Tat, Darbandi, the tinier nation, and the fourth level is identification by village or the settlement. So there is a 4-layer identity for people from Kaitaki and Darbandi. Sadly, we didn't work with other groups of mountainous Jews, but I believe that we would work in future, and we could juxtapose it with the materials obtained in Pyatigorsk and Durban. Thank you.